Hello again. Nice to see you back here. My name is Yukita and welcome to my channel Two and Half, where we talk about knitting. And in this video slash vlog, you will see my current projects I'm working on. You will see the changes I've made in them, and I will take you to the yarn shop and show you some interesting yarns. Usually you can find Sandnes, Garn and Rauma in all shops, but here I tried to film something more interesting you can find. And I will show you what I've bought. My purchases are not very big this time. Let's get started. At first I want you to have a look at the Ranunculus I am knitting and a little project socks I'm working on. Let's have a look at my Ranunculus sweater. As you can see, I made 3 repeats of this motif, this one, then 2 repeats of the same one, and 2 tiny, kind of the same but going the different direction, and smaller ones. And I have very little yarn left. I knitted 1 round after the last motif, and now I have to make the last set of increases, and I think everything is okay. As you can see, there are no folds, it's not tight, it's not too big, it's just the right size. I also started knitting socks for my brother-in-law, and as you remember, this is the yarn that I dyed myself, this and this. So I made the cuffs, the ribbing and the ankle part, and I started picking up stitches to make the loops. Here are the live stitches. Let me pick them up. I always make loops, not always, but very often make loops for the back of the sock, because I find it very convenient when you wear it in the shoes and somehow they slide a bit down. You just use your finger as a hook and pull it up. So what I do with a crochet hook, I carefully pick up 4 stitches from these 2 knitted stitches, and I knit an I-cord consisting of 20 stitches, and then I sew the live stitches. I skip 1 to knit column, and I sew to this one. So this column is the middle of the sock, the middle of the back. And now I will start, so after finishing those loops, I will start making the heel. So I've made 2. Unfortunately, I didn't find any orchids I wanted to buy, but I found some yarn I wanted to buy. Some of it was just what I needed for my friend, and another type of yarn you'll see in a second is the yarn that is discontinued, and it was sold out last year. However, the shop had several colors, and the colors that I bought were, they had just several balls of it. However, the colors I didn't want to buy, they had like 20 balls of some colors. And let's go and see what I mean by saying this. As I was doing my shopping, I went to a sewing shop. That's the biggest sewing shop in our neighboring town. It's really big and has different kinds of fabric and all the accessories and lace and bands and things. I don't know what they are for sewing. And they have a little section for knitting. They sell yarn that is relatively cheap, and I'm not sure about the quality because I've never seen that type of yarn that company in any other shop, and I've never heard anyone talking about using this yarn. So I never buy yarn there, but they have needles that I really love. I have higher needles. No, I have higher needles, yes. And I have Chia Goose, and I have Adi. And though Chia Goose are the most popular needles in the world, I think, and I really like them, these are my favorites. Maybe the metal feels a bit more pleasant in Chia Goose, but the cable here I like much more. It's not so sturdy, it doesn't have that steel core inside, so it's more flexible and it has no memory. So this is my favorite ones, and when I pick the needles for my project, if I have Chia Goose and these, so my hand goes straight to these. So I bought different sizes, so my plan was to go and buy number 2 needles for socks. This is the number that I use, and sometimes I use even 1.5. So I bought 2 so I could knit 2 socks at a time. And then I decided to renew all my needle stash. So I bought 2.5, it's 80 centimeters, all the needles. 2.5, 3, 4, 4.5, and 5, just in case. And then I went to the yarn shop that is there, and when my friend saw my blue shawl with the pink, she gave me a hint that she would like to get a similar one. We don't have the same yarn I was knitting it with because that came from the US, but here we have Inca, that's Roma company, superfine alpaca. It's very soft, and I have several colors of this. And now it was on 40% sale, and there were only 3 balls left. And as I was wearing this scarf, I just put it close to my scarf, and it was very similar color. Of course, it doesn't have that shade ripple effect that hand-dyed yarn has, but it's bright, and she loves this bright blue. And as I'm running out of neon pink, I also bought Regia 4-ply. It's a small 50-gram ball, and it's enough. So I bought for the shawl, and Klompe Lompe Spot is the yarn that is discontinued. It has 40 alpaca, 40 merino, and 20 nylon. It's good for everything, and it's super soft and squishy. And most of the shops sold it out last year, and you could not get more. And this shop was selling out some of it. I don't know where they found it, in some corner of their warehouse. So I bought this gray 4 balls. I have different colors, so I think I will make some color work, and I have some ideas in my head. And I bought 1 light foggy gray, 1 foggy blue, 1 darker blue, and light ash rose. And here is the receipt. So just to compare the prices, maybe some find it interesting to compare the prices in different countries. So Klompe Lompe, it costs €6.50, and now it cost 4. So it's $2.50. I saved $2.50. And this Rauma is more expensive. It cost €8 per ball. And now I paid, it doesn't say, it just counted all together. And they made a mistake. They counted that I have to pay for 4 balls of turkeys, and I bought only 3 balls. A cheater. Now I can't change anything. So one is €8. So maybe I paid some €5 for it. And this Regia 50 gram is €7. That's expensive. So much. This is the yarn shop in my neighboring town, and I want you to show some of the most popular or more interesting yarns you can find there. The first one is Noro. That's a Japanese yarn. It's for sock knitting, and it used to cost €30 per ball. Now it's only 15. The yarn itself doesn't look nice in socks, and if you touch it, it's not pleasant because it has 40% wool, 25 silk, 25 polyamide, and 10 mohair. I think what you feel most is the raw silk, and it kind of sticks to the hands. It's not very pleasant. I saw a lady using this yarn to knit a sweater. She took non-striping yarn, like the one you see, the beige or camel, added a strand of mohair and knitted a sweater, and it looked amazing. Maybe a year ago, the same shop was selling out the same yarn, and I guess no one bought it because at some moment it was 10 kroners per ball, and still they couldn't get rid of this yarn. Yeah, so this was the color for the sweater the lady was using. She took light blue mohair, I think, and it looked gorgeous. If this yarn gets on sale for, I don't know, €1 or it could be more, maybe I'll try to knit a sweater as well if I find enough quantity of gray or beige. The next basket I'm going to show you contains silly sock yarn. This ball, one ball is considered for 2 socks, and you get 2 completely different socks. And I think that's the beauty of this yarn. The sample shows 2 socks knitted identical, and I don't know why they did it. I think it's much more fun to have 2 different socks. And once my shop had a sale on this yarn, and it was only €5 per ball. So I bought 3 or 4 colors. I gifted some balls, and I still have some for myself. It was €15 and now it's €10, so €5 cheaper. Here is 50% off for knitting books. I looked through one of the book and you can see that all this thick book contains the same pattern for different sweaters, cardigans, vests, and different color combinations. Kamarusa company produces Midnatzul. It's a very soft and pleasant yarn, and it contains baby alpaca, tencel, and merino wool. It doesn't have any mohair, but it looks like mohair. And the colors, they are very beautiful, subtle. And I would like to try this yarn. The hand-dyed yarn is 33 euros per skein. This is mohair, and we have just a little section in the shop for the hand-dyed yarn. Most of the mohair is super bright neon colors. Another yarn I want to show you seems to be very popular at the moment. It's mohair wool on polyamide, Mic Poful, and it's kind of thick mohair strand, but what I miss in it is the softness. It's not soft, it looks scratchy and rough, and even for the palms that are not so sensitive, it's not very pleasant, though the colors are amazing. And it costs, I guess, 11 euros per ball. If you need something very bright, that's the right option, I guess. It's 11 euros. Another yarn I'm in love with is Filcolana Alva. It's 100% alpaca and it has nearly 200 meters and 25 grams. It's super thin, but it's so pleasant, it's so soft. And though thin but squishy, and the colors are amazing. They are not plain colors like in a watercolor box, but all complex and muted. It's worth trying. I know my friend knitted a sweater using only one strand of this thin yarn and a strand of mohair, and it wears and looks amazing. This is yarn new to me. It has like 50% baby alpaca and 44 lin and some wool, and you feel very strange touching it. You can feel the rough thread of lin and the softness of mohair. The colors as well are very, very beautiful, and it costs 12 euros. And now let's have a look at my Ranunculus sweater. Can you notice any changes? You can see that I've changed the motifs. I liked the first one as well, but when I was showing it to you, I was wearing a t-shirt, and the eyelets on this middle section were all like gray from the t-shirt, and it looked fine. So I knitted the transition part on the first version and knitted a bit of the pink and put it on to see if it's time to separate for the sleeves. And I was wearing like a camisole on straps. And oh my gosh, I saw what I've made. We don't have a very strict dress code at work, but still there are some things I can't do. And the eyelets, the top eyelets were showing my skin, and the lower eyelets were already showing my bra. And that means I will never be able to wear it on naked body, just on the bra. I will always have to put like top, so it covers everything. And when I knit, I want to wear it everywhere, to work, and when I'm not at work at home or when I go to town. And then I thought, I will have to think every time I put it on. So you see the difference in color through the eyelets, and you just, what is she wearing under? So I had to redo it. I'm just lowering the camera so you can see. So I repeated the same pattern 3 times. Just here are 3 repeats of the motif, 2 and 1. I have no mohair left at all. The last maybe 30 centimeters when I was doing this color work, I finished with no mohair of the sandy color, just the main yarn, because I ran out of it. And of this brownish, I have a tiny ball left. Okay, so I have this left from a 50-gram ball for the sandy part, and no mohair at all. When it comes to increases, I usually follow this pattern that is against the rules. All knitting books say that you have to make the most rapid increases closer to the neckline, because here your shoulders go straight and you need lots of fabric to form. However, I've noticed that if I do this, I get folds like this, and I don't like it. Maybe for people with a bigger bust circumference, because you have more advantages here, then you just kind of even out the folds. But for me, it doesn't work like this. So I start making more rapid increases from kind of half of the yoke. And then it sits very nicely here close to the body, and it has a bit of space at the lower part of the yoke. Okay, now now I will take it off and I will put it on the table. I'll explain how I knitted it, okay? Before I start explaining, I want to show you what yarns I'm using. I had a ball of Sennasgarn alpaca silke, and I had one ball knitting for olive mohair, sandy color. So it was lighter than this, so I mixed them and you can see the difference in shade. I used all the ball of mohair, and this much is left from this yarn. And for the bottom part of the Ranunculus, I'm using Eco Puno. It's 72 cotton, 17% merino wool, and 11% alpaca baby. And it's 215 meters in a 50-gram ball, and the color is 036. And I'm mixing it with Rauma Plum, 70 super kid mohair and 30% polyamide, and Filcolana Tilia, 70 mohair and 30 silk. I'm using helical knitting for the pink part because I don't have enough of pink. I have only 2 balls of plum and 1 of this, so I'm alternating. Okay, let's start. The sweater is knitted on needles number 4 and the neckline is knitted on needles number 3. So I cast on 114 stitches and I used Italian cast on method. After knitting 9 rounds, 1 by 1 ribbing, I knitted 2 rounds in stockinette using the same number of needles, number 3. That's number 3. I knitted 2 rounds of stockinette, and then I took number 2 needles and picked up all the bumps that you get when you knit and stockinette here. And I knitted 2 rounds on needles number 2 here on the inside, and then I joined these 2 rounds together and I got this nice finishing line. So here is I marked with stitch markers for you the amount of increases I've made, and I've made increases 4 times. The first time I made increases after 5 stitches. Every 5 stitches I made an increase. If you follow any patterns, you will see that it's usually after 3 or 4 stitches you have to make the increase. But I find that it doesn't work for me. So I always make fewer increases here. Then I made this a 3-stitch motif, and then I knitted a couple of rounds and made an increase again after 5 stitches. I really like this motif. I knew how to make it, but I've never done it, and I was so happy I found a sweater where I can use it. Then I knitted the second motif like 2 times, and I made an increase again. This time the increases are made every 6 stitches. I repeated the motif again, knitted several rounds, and made the last set of increases, again 6 stitches. And here I've got 264 stitches. If you are interested in the centimeters, so with the neckline it's 25 and 20, 21 and a half, 22, let's say, the yoke itself. So, and when I saw that it was enough, I divided for the back, front and the sleeves. That's the back, and you can see that here I've made the lifting of the back. We call it Asian lifting. So when you do not use short rows close to the neckline, but you do it after finishing the yoke. So when I divide it for the sleeves, front and the body, and I divide it like this, I gave 95 stitches for the front, 95 for the back, and 37 for the arms, for the sleeves. And then I knitted, I think 8 rows, just the back and forth, and only then I joined with the front. And now I will pick up the stitches for the sleeves, and I will pick up from here. So it means it will lift up. If I shake it, you can see that my front is lower than the back. I'm using one set like this and one set with plume, and I'm alternating the yarn. As Ranunculus is usually an oversized sweater, I try to keep it oversized as well, and I will make it quite short, I guess. That was all I had to tell you, and I hoped you enjoyed it. I have one question for you. When I was looking for the sandy color for my inspired by Ranunculus sweater, I came across like 4 or 5 bags with leftover yarn. It's all sorted out according to colors, and I was doing that in summer because I wanted to knit sea glass tea, and I'm not good at color work. I can do it, but I'm never happy with the final result, what I get. It's either the stitch is too tight, the fabric is too tight or too loose. Well, it's a matter of practice, I know. But I want to ask you, do you have a sea glass tee or sea glass sweater? And my two questions are, is it very difficult to knit, to make all sweater in color work? And what do you do with the knots? And the second question is it very thick? Because you get 2 layers of yarn, so it becomes like thick. Is this thickness kind of soft and drapey, or is it like stiff? That's very important for me because I don't want to make like a thick, stiff garment. Please let me know because I'm thinking of starting it, but I have so many doubts. And those knots, what do you do with them? Hiding all of them is like, it's not a waste of time. It's just, you can go crazy. Okay. At least I'm not going to do it if I have to knit. Though this messy line with the knots is also, with the ends, is not also a good option. So please let me know what you do with the ends and everything you know about sea glass tee, with your personal experience. That's what matters to me. Okay? See you very soon. Bye.